Welcome to another edition of Fantasy Basketball Weekly. I'm Amber Wilson, and joining me is senior fantasy writer Jamey Eisenberg. And Jamey, there was a big trade that happened last week, so let's start off talking about that between the Lakers and the Grizzlies. And most notably, Pau Gasol has a new home.
That's right, Amber. He certainly does, and he is in a much better place because you know what? The Lakers are going to compete. The Grizzlies were not, and Pau Gasol changes the entire landscape of the Western Conference because now that team is very formidable. They should be the favorite to win the Western Conference right now. But from a fantasy perspective, it really is going to change a lot of things for the Lakers because Kobe Bryant's scoring probably going to come down a little bit. That front court, when they're healthy, when you're talking about Andrew Bynum at center, Pau Gasol at power forward, Lamar Odom at small forward, really going to do a lot of things for that team. But again, it's going to change a little bit of what is going to happen fantasy-wise because Lamar Odom at the 3 is going to lose some rebounds. Pau Gasol coming to the Lakers. His scoring is going to be down a little bit, even more than it was a year ago because he's going to be he's at 18.8 points now, probably going to be around the 15-point range, you know, for certain nights. And Andrew Bynum will lose a little bit of value when he's on the court and healthy. But for the time being, with Bynum still out with his knee injury, you're going to see guys like Ronnie Turioff continue to be productive. Luke Walton's going to continue to be productive, and then Jordan Farmar also will continue to have some value coming off the bench as the #1 guard in reserve for the Lakers. So a lot of good things happening for LA, and we could see a little bit of a revival with that Boston Lakers championship of the early 80s.
Of yesteryear.
Of yesteryear, yeah.
All right, so the Lakers are a hot topic here during this trade, but the Grizzlies still have to play basketball.
That's right.
So let's talk about their starting five, and how are they affected by this trade? Is anyone here going to be helped?
Well, Amber, you know, there are some guys that were playing well with Pau Gasol dealing with his little back situation and missing some time, you know, due to some injuries here and there. So Rudy Gay is going to continue to just be a rising star. He's having a great sophomore season, averaging over 19 points, over 6 rebounds. I think you're going to see him consistently average over 20 points per game. Mike Miller is another guy, you know, one of our great University of Florida products, is going to continue to, you know, put up good numbers as well. You know, he's over 16 points per game. Also over 6 rebounds per game as well. So I think you'll see those two guys continue to be the big point producers. I like what Mike Conley has been able to do once he's been inserted into the starting lineup. He's been out now the last couple of games. So once he gets back, you know, that team's going to be very productive. I think you'll see Darko Milicic also have some increased value just because he was, you know, sort of hit or miss, but now he's going to be the really best big man on the roster. I don't think Kwame Brown's really going to have much of an increase in production, but Akeem Warwick is a guy that I like a lot. You know, he was very productive for the Grizzlies last year when Gasol missed the start of the season with a broken foot. I think you'll see him, you know, get up to around a double-double per game. You know, he has that potential. And then as long as Conley's out for the time being, you'll still get some value from guys like Kyle Lowry and also Juan Carlos Navarro. So there are some decent players from a fantasy perspective that can help the Grizzlies in the time being and especially going forward, guys like Gay and Miller.
Okay, so we talked about the big trade starting from the top of the show, which is the first time in ages I can remember not talking about injuries the top. But we can't ignore the subject.
Nope.
There are injuries to discuss, most notably Gerald Wallace. He's out for at least a week with a strained right foot. What's going on with him, Jamey?
Well, Amber, you know, not having Gerald Wallace is really going to hurt a lot of fantasy owners because he's one of the best forwards in the game because he really fills up the entire stat sheet. He gives you 21 points. He gives you 6 rebounds. He gives you 3.7 assists. He gives you steals. He gives you blocks. He's just really one of the great players in the NBA and really just is able to do it all. So without him, you're going to have to find somebody, maybe a guy like Akeem Warwick to pick up and put on your roster. But for the Bobcats, you're going to see increased production from guys like Jason Richardson, Emeka Okafor, Felton when he's not dealing with his ankle injuries as well. So you'll see some guys for the Bobcats really start to pick things up. But they're going to miss really a guy like Gerald Wallace for the next week at least. Hopefully it's not longer. There are some other injuries, though, Amber, as we know. Of course. You have a couple guys missing sometime with the flu, guys like Corey Maggette, Chris Kaman, Eddie Curry. Those guys should all be back this week. I'm surprised it's taken them this long. And then Michael Redd has been out with a knee injury, and Kevin Garnett with the abdominal injury. You know, I heard an interesting quote from Doc Rivers. He said, you know, guys, Doc is a nickname. I don't know when he's going to be back. So hopefully Doc Rivers, the coach, knows when Kevin Garnett will get back on the court, and that should be sometime soon. We've also seen Luol Deng now miss some time with an Achilles tendon situation. He said he's going to be out at least until February 9th, which is the end of their 6-game road trip. So I think you'll see him continue to sit on the bench, so I wouldn't use him in your fantasy leagues. And then Marcus Camby, Amber, is a guy who we know to be injured all the time. You know, It seems like now he missed a game with a knee injury. He says it's going to be probably periodic nights where he's going to miss some time. So that's not the best news, but the fact that he's going to play through it means you can still keep him in your lineup. So I think you still start Marcus Camby, but just be aware that it could potentially be one of those situations where he misses a game here or there and you know, screws up your league.
All right, so that was kind of good news. I want more good news, Jamey. There's got to be some out there. Give me some more good news.
There is. Amber, we actually had some guys come back from injury, which is very rare these days, you know, guys that are actually coming back. So the good news is when guys eventually get hurt, they do come back. So you see guys like LeBron James only missed one game with his ankle injury. He's back. Start him, have no worries. Carmelo Anthony came back after missing 5 games with an ankle injury. He had a big game, 25 points, 10 rebounds against the Bobcats on Saturday. So he's back. Start him in your lineup. And then Caron Butler, who missed 3 games with a hip injury, he's back. So get these 3 All-Stars on your fantasy roster and hope that they don't get hurt again because we're tired of talking about injuries.
We are, especially with these big name guys.
That's right.
There's nothing more frustrating. All right, Jamie, thanks for all of your
My
help.
pleasure.
Keep your mouths right here at CBSSports.com for everything you need to know in the world of sports. And if you missed anything here today, stop, refresh, and rewatch. For Jamey Eisenberg, I'm Wilson. Have a great week, guys.